So today I woke up to 6 inches of snow outside. We have a snowstorm that has come our way. And so there's so much snow outside and the roads are blocked, so you can't really drive anywhere until they're cleared. And I looked outside my bedroom window. And one thing that I always observe about the snow days, or when it snows really bad, there's a silence. A silence that can be alarming because we're so used to hearing noises everywhere. The cars, people, even the trees and the animals, the sounds of nature. But when it snows, everything is silent. There's a silence that can be eerie, but at the same time it's beautiful. And that's what I woke up to today as I looked through my bedroom window down to where the snow was. It's white and gray everywhere. Yet it got its own beauty. And in that, there are simple pleasures. I want to talk to you today about discovering pleasure in your late 40s or 50s or 60s. For women of a certain age, we forget how to enjoy life. We wait for permission to enjoy our lives. Because for a lot of us, it's a lot of giving pleasures to others, giving joy to your family and friends, doing things for others to make them happy. And you forget how to actually have some happiness and some joy and really just enjoy your life. So if you've spent years postponing pleasure, maybe not consciously, but in small accumulated choices, you had hurried lunches, eating at your desk because there was more work to finish. You skipped walks because there were errands and things to do and to take care of the children. You saved the good wine for special occasions, for when you had people over. You set the table for when you had visitors, just so that you can impress them. But you never really set the table for yourself or your own family. You treated pleasure like it was a reward to be earned when everything else has been handled. Yet it is the very same thing that makes the life we have bearable, the busy schedules we have more bearable. It is not an indulgence to have pleasure, to have things that we enjoy. It is really, truly survival. So today, I decided, like I do most weekends, that I was going to make a brunch for my kids. Where I cook the things that they love that might not necessarily be healthy. The pancakes, waffles. I made some sausage and potato dish, which they love. Some bacon, some eggs. We had fruit on the table and some juices and water. These are the simple pleasures that I get to enjoy with my family. And I love to do that. Since we all snowed in, there was nowhere really to go. We couldn't drive our cars. They are full of snow and they are loaded up with snow. In the driveway, you can't drive until you clear the snow. So we decided to have a slow day, a day that we could just sit and enjoy the meal without the rushing of going to sports activity, going to this or that, but just to be present with my family, which is something that I've tried to intentionally do more and more. And after the big brunch, we had out onto our yard and we played with snow. And it was enjoyable and fun for me. And sometimes I do all these things with the kids because I know they enjoy it, and I enjoy it as well. But after we'd played, we're back in the house, they were having drinks and warming themselves up and putting away all the winter, the snow boots and the winter coats and everything else. I thought to myself that I actually have not really done any snow playing by myself. I love the snow. I did not grow up where there was snow, so I really love playing in the snow. I love touching it. I love being out there. I do not enjoy the cold that comes with it, but I love the snow. So I decided that later on I would go out by myself and play in the snow, just for the pleasure of it, just to enjoy myself without the kids, not for anyone else, but for me, for myself, because I love the snow. And so that is what I did. I went out and I rolled and I played and I threw the snow in the air. And I opened my mouth and I swallowed some snowflakes as the snow is coming down. And I slid on my yard. And it felt like I was young again. As you are approaching 50 or whatever age you are, you sometimes forget what it is to be young, to be carefree, because there's so many responsibility. So today I took out the time just for me to do something for myself that I actually enjoy, and giggled and laughed by myself. So what are the things the pleasurable things that you enjoy, that you have set aside? Can we talk about the meal? That sometimes we don't actually get to enjoy the meal that we have bought or we've cooked, because we are consuming food while we're answering emails or scrolling through our Instagram feed. We are eating, standing over the sink, and we don't get to sit down and actually enjoy and have the pleasure you get from food register in your memory as an event. To enjoy a meal does not require elaborate cooking or expensive ingredients. It really asks for your time and attention. Sometimes all you need is good bread and fresh tomatoes, a table, and a white tablecloth. And sometimes the presence of another, or just by yourself. So when we think about the meals that we can actually taste, when we prepare meals that we can actually sit down and enjoy, we stop needing weekends to binge on certain things to compensate. We stop needing expensive dinners to go out, because we rarely sit down to enjoy a dinner at our own house. When pleasure is distributed among ordinary days stop feeling like something we have to survive. For a lot of us women, we are surviving through each day. We survive our children, survive our jobs, survive our businesses, survive our marriages, survive our friendships. So why don't we take the time to eat that meal maybe once a week, where we actually get to sit at the table, where we actually get to sit on the table and taste the food that we are consuming, without the phone, without the iPad, without any form of screen, just eating and tasting the food that is going into our bodies. How about trying fine dining at home, where we treat our own table like a reservation that we've been looking forward to? We light the candles on a Friday night, Saturday night, or Tuesday night. We set the table properly with the utensils, the fork and the knife, the dessert spoon, the soup spoon. We put the best china that we have. And we don't save this for when we entertain others, as if they are worthy more than we are. And for myself, I love to treat people who come to my home, to make them feel special, to set the table like you would at a very fine dining, expensive restaurant, to do the 3, 4, 5, 6 course meal. Because what I realize living in this place, in the Western culture that I'm in, is that a lot of times people don't get to feel like they're worthy of the fine dining. They are surprised when you treat them and show them that they can have the 3 or 4 course meal, and that they can be served with expensive china and a beautiful tablecloth. So I make it my own. I make it something that I do for my friends and family because I love to do it. But I also do that for myself and my own family, even when we are not entertaining, because we are worthy of the 5-star restaurant treatment. We are worthy of having the fine dining at my own table. I do not have to go out there. Nothing wrong with going and paying for it and having someone serve you. I think we all need that and deserve that. But what if we make that very ordinary in our own homes? That we do not have to celebrate something, to achieve something, for us to deserve fine dining. That we can still enjoy the same treatment and serve ourselves. It does not have to be elaborate cooking if you're not a good cook. It can just be a bottle of wine or water, whatever your drink of choice is. And not because someone is coming over, but because you're creating in your own life something that is better for you. Your home becomes the place where the good things happen, not a place where you tolerate events, because the pleasure is already at your table. Living well and living elegantly is practiced in your own home, not when you go to a special place or to be with certain people, or when you spend certain amount of money. But you have the pleasure to create the fine dining, the elegant living in your own home. A lot of times when we talk about elegant living and the pleasures for ourselves, is that our bodies as well need to feel at home. Because a lot of times real comfort is physical, not just visual. I love the visual beauty. But a lot of times we're sold the visual beauty is comfort itself. I love the throw pillows and candles and the soft sheets. But real comfort is really what your own body experiences. If your mattress is uncomfortable, you will not have a good night's sleep. If the back of your chair is not okay, you avoid sitting on that chair. If your home is cold and dark, you are not comfortable in that house. So we don't want to decorate our homes for shows or for other people, but to decorate them to where we live there comfortably. We prioritize what our body needs over what looks good in an Instagram picture. And we don't isolate ourselves from the daily rhythms because we're trying to have a certain look in the home. So for elegant living and for giving pleasure to yourself in this season of life that you are. Pay attention to what your body is saying, how the couch you sit on feels, how the food tastes, how the pillows feel, and how your bed makes you feel when you go to bed and when you wake up. And then I want to talk about the evenings. A lot of our lives are scheduled, and mine is too. I have 3 kids, and they have each their own schedule for school, for sports, for extracurriculum stuff. Sometimes it does feel over-scheduled. And of course, I know it is us, the parents, to blame. And I've also been very intentional about cutting down on what they get to do and what the family gets to do. Because a busy life is exhausting. And I don't want my calendar to be a form of defense where I cannot live my life and be with the people that I want to be because I am so busy. When every hour and every evening is planned, and believe me, I understand because I do love productivity. And I sometimes find myself planning every hour and every moment. There is a certain pressure with that. There is a certain pressure to achieve, to make sure you're at everything and to do everything. And there's left no time for unscheduled pleasure, for things that you just do spontaneously, not because they're planned, for conversations that are not rushed because you're not trying to get to the next sporting event or that event. Your evenings are not packed, therefore you can stay longer somewhere. And you can also say yes to unexpected invitations. But if your schedule is full of things that you can hardly breathe, how do you sit down with your own thoughts without feeling unproductive and behind? So protecting our evenings and discovering pleasure in having unscheduled evenings or unscheduled days is not about doing nothing. It's about protecting the space where real life happens, the kind of life that cannot be planned or optimized. We live in a culture where everything is optimized, where productivity is screamed from the rooftops, that we are left with nothing that is not unplanned, and everything is on the calendar. So for yourself, why don't you plan one evening a week that is left entirely open for anything, where there are no obligations or plans? And if you end up doing nothing, that is also fine. It is simply a time to be with yourself or to be with those that you love. There is pleasure in taking walks and spending time outside, not just where we move our bodies because we have to exercise so that we can look a certain way. Not to walk because we have an errand to accomplish, but just being outside to feel good. Like I did today. I just wanted to feel good in the snow and to taste the snowflakes as they're falling down. And that is what I did. And that was very pleasurable. Beginning your day with coffee or tea or whatever your drink of choice in an unhurried, slow pace on the days that you can is also how you can experience pleasure in your life. A walk after dinner, there is no destination, there is no agenda to lose weight or to burn down the calories that you have eaten. Just a walk to be outside. These things may seem small and trivial, but they're not. They are the small pleasures that make life worth living, that makes all the other things we do worth it. Because life is not only about what you accomplish, it is also about what you notice and how you feel. When you make those simple things, like taking walks, fine dining at your own home, they replace the need for retail therapy, for going to the mall, for shopping, that a lot of women end up being stuck with. They replace the need for us to go on vacations and escape our lives or to recover from the survival mode we're in, because pleasure is already at home. How can you make your home pleasurable today? So we're not always wishing to be away from it, to take a vacation from our own lives. And I will talk about the friendships in our lives, because pleasure is also relational. It is about the relationships that we have. The richest part of our lives require time and attention, and these are the relationships that we have. We want those conversations that stay with us. We want the people who know us well enough to make us laugh. And this requires time and attention in a culture that treats everything like it's optional. But they are not optional. Your relationships are an infrastructure of a meaningful life. When you prioritize your relationship the same way you prioritize your work deadlines, you cultivate more pleasurable moments and deeper relationship. You discover that contentment doesn't come from what you buy, but it comes from who you know and how well they know you. When we do something with someone, a walk, a meal, a conversation with no agenda, something that requires nothing but our presence, that in itself is pleasure. It's the things that bring us usually the most joy and peace. So who are the people in your life that you need to be more intentional about to spend time with? Because as you discover pleasure in your late 40s and beyond, relationships, meaningful relationships, become very, very important. And not the quantity, not having many friends, but maybe the 2, 3, or 4 friends that you get to do life with no agenda, but just for the pleasure of it. Let's talk about the power of enough. Because one of the profound pleasure that we can find in life is when we recognize or realize when something is enough. And this word enough is very tricky, because what is enough for you may not be enough for me. What is enough for somebody else may not be enough for you. So you get to define for yourself what is enough. What are enough clothes in your closet? What is the definition of enough for you? And a lot of times when we do not define enough, we keep chasing and spend our whole lifetimes chasing after what we think would be enough and never actually getting there. Because sometimes enough can be a never-ending goal. So what is enough for you? Is the latest phone your definition of enough? The number of winter jackets you have, the definition of enough. Is it 2? Is it 1? Or is 2 enough or 1 enough? To know what is enough is not settling for something. It's really clarity. You then stop the constant pressure to maximize and improve, because that becomes exhausting. It keeps you from this perpetual dissatisfaction that can settle when you don't know what your enough is. Because you keep comparing what you have to what you could have or what somebody else has. So when we let something be enough, when we let the clothes we have be enough, the food we have be enough, the house we have be enough, it does not always mean we're settling for less. Sometimes it's that we just take out ourselves from the equation of constantly chasing and the exhaustion that you feel from chasing things that you can never achieve. So we have to learn to be content with what we have, even if we do have goals for better and bigger things. But even in those goals is to know what is enough then. And when do you stop? Because freedom itself is knowing what is enough. You are not free if you are constantly chasing. If you spend your life chasing after things, you're truly not free. You have to come to a place where you stop performing for people that are not even there, an imaginary audience. And you start living according to your own actual needs, what feel good, what satisfies your values and make you happy inside. And you see that when you have that freedom of enough, you start to simply live and not to chase. And this extends beyond just the things we accumulate, but it applies to our schedule, commitments, and ambitions. What is enough activity for your family? What are enough commitments for your family? Where you're left with breathing room to do the things you love, to explore the things that makes you happy and gives you pleasure. Knowing when you're done, knowing when you've done enough for the day. And also, when relationships are good enough without being perfect. Allowing yourself to be enough without constant self-improvement as if you're a project. For those of us who are ambitious and goal-oriented and productive, sometimes we are always chasing constantly for the self-improvement, and we have made ourselves a project. So when do we allow ourselves to be enough, for the weight to be enough, for what we know to be enough, for the goals we have to be enough? So you and I have to claim what our enough is so we can reclaim our peace. And so that we can stop chasing things that are out there without ever coming to when we can say, I am done, I have enough. So know when to stop the chase. Know when to stop trying to optimize your life and trying to fix what isn't even broken. And learn to enjoy and to have pleasure in knowing this is enough for me. One of the ultimate pleasures in life is not the leisure itself. It is the freedom to control your own time. It is the ability to decide how your day unfolds without every hour being claimed by some obligation. And this is not just for the business people, entrepreneurs, but it's for the housewife, the stay-at-home mother, the woman who's always has her days and the hours are claimed by something. Sometimes that freedom, the pleasure to have the freedom over your time might mean you are not making as much or buying as many things as you'd like. Because when you simplify your life, it is not always about constantly working to afford the things you don't need. It is about saying no more often than we say yes. And with this freedom, the freedom of time, which is a pleasure in itself, it is the resource that you cannot buy back. You cannot get a refund for it. How you spend your time is the most important decision that you make each day, each year, each season, and over again until we are no longer here. So as you are in this second chapter, know that pleasure is not from where you go for vacations. As much as that is pleasurable, or what you eat, as much as that is pleasurable, ultimately pleasure is about your time and how you spend it and the freedom you have to allocate to the things that are important and that you value. So look at your calendar today and ask yourself, what could I remove if I could? What is not in alignment with my values that I'm chasing and pursuing? Because again, time is the pleasure that we cannot buy back. So I would like for you to start discovering the pleasures in your own life. So you stop deferring things. You stop accumulation. You stop believing that life begins after everything else is handled, or that pleasure itself is a reward. Pleasure is a foundation that we build into our days, into our lives, and it is not selfish. It is not selfish. It is the work that it makes everything else around us work better. It is the work that helps us to be the women that we're meant to be. So go out there and discover your own pleasure, the things that bring you happiness and joy. And if you're new here, my name is Janet. And this is the Second Act Collective. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and join our community in the description.